Welcome to the InfoSec Insider podcast, brought to you by URM, the UK's leading information and cybersecurity specialists.
Hi, my name's Annie and I'm here today with Martin Brazier, who's one of our senior consultants here at URM. Welcome to another episode of InfoSec Insider. So today we're going to be talking about communicating in a crisis, and Martin's going to share some of his key tips for doing that effectively. So my first question for you, Martin, is could you just sort of define what exactly a crisis is?
Well, a crisis is an event that disrupts normal business operations and critical business processes. The terminology of crisis is interchangeable with descriptions such as disruptions, incidents, and events, and so on. And of course, the range of events leading to a crisis are probably endless, from natural disasters, utility failures, IT failures, product recalls, public relations incidents, and incidents vary in severity and duration, and they can be short-lived, they can last longer than expected, but they rarely occur at convenient times. And of course, we've seen in the news very recently examples of very disruptive incidents to retailers, particularly from ransomware attacks. But due to this unpredictability, organizations need to prepare in advance, ensuring that the business continuity, crisis, and incident management plans are in place to respond effectively and return the organization to normal operations as soon as possible.
Great, thank you, Martin. Just to build on that, what is crisis communication and how does it fit into business continuity planning?
Well, when a crisis occurs, you need to ensure that your staff, stakeholders, and customers all know what is happening and are provided with the assurance that your organisation will recover. Time can be of the essence, so it's important that your organisation is prepared. Crisis communication can be referenced from your business continuity plan, but typically it's found within a crisis management plan as a separate linked plan, depending on the organisation's complexity and regulatory and reputational risk. It involves communicating with internal and external stakeholders to provide accurate, timely information in such a way that helps to meet stakeholder needs, aid incident recovery, and minimise the impact. A crisis communication plan should include flexible communication strategies and identify a trained team with roles and responsibilities for managing communications as part of the wider business continuity effort.
And why is it important?
Well, crisis communication can be argued to be the single most important element to get right during a crisis. And one of the ways of identifying its importance is to consider what would happen if it wasn't done well. Poorly managed and ineffective communication can prolong a crisis, make its effects even worse, and result in even greater impact, damaging trust, reputation, brand identity, and organisational effectiveness. Remaining silent about an incident is never the best option, as inaccurate assumptions, fears, falsehoods can all spread quickly in an information vacuum, especially on social media. A crisis will often occur at the least convenient moments, and events can unfold at an alarming rate. In some circumstances, regulatory or legislative requirements can loom quickly, such as the 72-hour requirement to inform the Information Commissioner's Office of a personal data breach. Consequently, having a crisis communication plan in place can help you to react quickly and get the correct messages out to the appropriate people at the right time. So delivered well, crisis communication can actually have a positive impact on brand and customer loyalty.
Perfect. Thank you, Martin. That makes sense. So what are the key things to consider about effective communications in a crisis?
Well, first of all, get yourself organised. Thorough preparation is the foundation of effective crisis management in general and crisis communication in particular. The planning process should include the identification of critical risks, vulnerable operations, and key internal and external stakeholders. These insights can be used to develop realistic crisis scenarios and pre-prepared communication strategies. It's crucial that the communication plan is fully aligned with the wider crisis management framework and its decision-making structures. If communications are developed in isolation, confusion and errors are far more likely to occur during a real incident. Crisis communication plan will specify who needs to receive communications, what their needs for information are likely to be, and the communication channels likely to be the most appropriate for each audience, with an alternative channel in case some of those are unavailable. Having draft versions of holding statements already prepared can bring significant time-saving benefits, as holding statements will need to go out immediately when an incident occurs, so that your organisation communicates proactively and is able to establish control of the narrative. Specialist templates may be required in some scenarios, such as for informing the Information Commissioner and data subjects of a data breach. Secondly, agree what your storyline will be. The point of crisis communication is to provide guidance, unity, and support in times of disruption and stress. So it's vital that everyone in your organisation's crisis communication team speak as one, from the leadership to the staff members. This will mean appointing someone at a senior level to provide final sign-off for messages, and everyone in the team should look to that individual for the final word. It's also vital to inform everyone not to send out their own unofficial messages or talk to the press without prior approval, or worse still, post about the incident on social media, as this could lead to confusion and misinformation at a time when clear, consistent communication is most needed. Thirdly, it's always best to be open and honest. As crisis communication is about building trust and confidence, it's important to inform people of what you know when you know it, but it's never a good idea to guess at outcomes or mislead, and you should never overpromise on recovery times. Communications need to be front and centre where the recipient can find them easily, not partially hidden in the hope that they won't see it. Stakeholder trust is built through effective and open communication, not merely by showing later that the requirements were technically fulfilled on paper. You should also ensure that staff can be updated quickly and that explanations are provided of why actions are being taken and the reasons behind external messages. Fourthly, it's important to set the right tone. The tone of the message is as important as the message itself. Language should be professional and empathetic, clear and straightforward. Jargon and technical terms should be avoided in favour of plain language. The goal is to make messages understandable yet consistent with your brand and business values. You should have flexible and backup communication channels. A single communication channel is unlikely to reach all your intended recipients, and depending on the crisis, some channels might not be available if the crisis involves an IT or power outage, for example. A good crisis communication plan will include preferred channels to each stakeholder group, but it should also include backup channels. Some of those backup channels may not be ideal, but could be the only ones available at the time. Email can reach everyone. Internal and external email groups and templates can be prepared, ready for use in a crisis. Text messaging and instant messaging applications such as WhatsApp can be used to reach people quickly. And whilst any message needs to be short, it can point to further information elsewhere, such as a website, or to promise further information later. Be aware that any message to a WhatsApp group is likely to spark a conversation and speculation, so you'll need to monitor those groups and prepare to intervene if necessary. Feedback is important too. During a crisis, the temptation can be to cut the organisation off from unwanted distractions while the crisis is managed. But stakeholders will have questions and feedback, and some, such as suppliers, may be able to offer help to ameliorate the crisis or aid its recovery. This will draw resources from the crisis communications team, but it's important that stakeholders don't feel as though they are being ignored. So a response, even a holding response while the facts are being gathered, is better than no response at all. One aspect to consider are the consequences of communications, to allow for these consequences in messages and plan for them if feasible. For example, are customers likely to go to another supplier or cancel orders? Might they invoke penalties in contracts? Could they lodge a complaint with the organisation or a regulator? Is there a case for legal action? Could there be an influx of requests for information, such as freedom of information requests to public bodies or data subject access requests under data protection law? All of these could occur while the crisis is still being managed, which is the time when distractions are the most impactful or costly. So it's important to consider this at the planning stage and determine lines to take in communications to delay or respond to adverse consequences. Finally, when a crisis is over, it's vital that the communication continues, especially within the internal team. This will help you decide whether the crisis management response and the crisis communications were effective and relevant, which can lead to improvements in the future. There are numerous ways that assessments or evaluation can be undertaken. Information can be gathered by including feedback into managers' team meetings and one-to-one meetings with the staff. A staff survey can be conducted to establish whether information was clear and timely, whether it was easy to understand, and whether communication channels which communication channels work best. A survey with customers can be effective in some cases, but other tactics to receive that feedback might include conversations with account managers or analysing correspondence and complaints.
Perfect. Thank you, Martin. I think that lessons learned and continuous improvement piece is so important just across the board for business continuity, isn't it? So amazing. Thank you so much for your time today, Martin. For any of our listeners that want to read a bit more about this subject, we have a blog on our website, urmconsulting.com, which Martin has very kindly written for us. It's called 7 Key Tips for Communicating in a Crisis. So do go and check that out. And thank you so much for listening today. If you've enjoyed this podcast, we would really appreciate it if you could spare a moment to leave a rating or review at ratethispodcast.com/InfoSec Insider. To listen to more episodes, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and Podbean.
Thank you for listening to URM's InfoSec Insider podcast. For more information, visit our website at urmconsulting.com.